Are they buying our democracy? The 20 million, yeah, $20 million, yeah, $3.6 million, and the biggest political scandal, yeah, 2026, Muria Zimbabwe, the biggest. So, welcome back, Pamzinda Wevan, the channel that follows the money, mazita, and asks the questions nobody else wants to ask. And today, we have a special report that ties together every single story we have been covering for the past month into one devastating picture. Because this week, Zimbabwe crossed the line, not quietly, not in the dark, in broad daylight, with my receipts. We have allegations of a $20 million payment to silence the opposition. We have $3.6 million being announced for every single member of parliament. Ikatosonziva 5 million. Ikamiswa. We have military promotions that constitutional lawyers are calling null and void. We have an economy bleeding while the political elite buys loyalty with cash. Yes, mota zichiri kukusha kumastreets, mota zichiri kukusha kumainfluencer kumachichi to keep us busy. And we have a date, May 18th, that is approaching like a freight train. This is not politics anymore, family. This is a purchasing exercise. They are not winning your democracy. They are buying it. And today, we are going to show you every single receipt. Right? Pane the Chamisa silence, the $20 million question, Zimbabwe. Let us start with the story that is Zimbabwe talking from Harare to the diaspora. Nelson Chamisa, the man who got 44% of the vote in 2018, the man who millions of Zimbabweans followed, marched for, believed in, the man who said the 2023 election was stolen and then walked away. And the question that every Zimbabwean has been asking since, where is Chamisa? Because here is what makes no sense. CAB 3, bill number 3, is the single biggest threat to opposition politics in Zimbabwe's history. If direct presidential elections are abolished, if 7-year terms are locked in, if Mnangagwa stays until 2030, Chamisa's path to the president is gone permanently. The man who spent years fighting for your vote should be on every platform right now, at every rally, leading the resistance. Instead, hapana mamoves achamboonekwa, aringe achingotaura, but nothing. He's not even on the forefront. And instead, so muri kuona zvinhu zviri kuitika here muri Zimbabwe. So his silence, measured, conspicuous, and as military intelligence analysts say, deeply meaningful. In military intelligence, there is a term for the absence of expected activity in a non-operational area. It is called a tactical withdrawal. And tactical withdrawals do not happen without a reason. When an actor who has consistently and loudly occupied a political space suddenly vacates that space precisely when the stakes are at the highest, the first question is not, perhaps they simply changed their mind. The first question is, what changed? What changed? And now, allegations are answering that question. A leaked intelligence report alleged that Tagwirei paid Chamisa to ensure he did not take a leading role in opposing CAB 3, with Chamisa reportedly depositing the money with a named Harare law firm and already withdrawing a significant portion. Now, the figures being thrown around vary. Some reports say $5 million. The video yanga ichitendera paYouTube iri kutaura $20 million. So Chamisa himself was eventually forced to respond to the sensational claims that he received a bribe from Mnangagwa to tone down his opposition. But his response has not satisfied his own supporters, because the silence on CAB 3 continues. The rallies have not happened. The legal challenges have not been filed. His silence on the bill has fueled speculation, with critics questioning why he has not taken a public stance on a reform package that could effectively end his prospects of ever becoming president. Last month, journalist Jealous Mawari leaked an audio recording in which Chamisa allegedly proposed an alliance with Mnangagwa. Mawari has also claimed that Chamisa was paid millions by Tagwirei in 2023 to take a political sabbatical and return in 2033. Return in 2033, which is coincidentally exactly the year some constitutional lawyers warned CAB 3 could keep Mnangagwa in power until. Zimbabwe, you cannot write this script. The dates line up too perfectly to be accidental. And now, Advocate Tavanpof has initiated legal proceedings against journalist Reason Wafawarova following these claims, which means this story is going to court. And when it goes to court, financial records, testimony, evidence, all of it potentially becomes public. As political analysts are saying, this court case could be a Pandora's box. And once a Pandora's box is open, you cannot close it. So rikaiti takataura about the $3.6 million yaida kupiwa members of parliament. We cannot ignore that. It's a jaw-dropping as Chamisa allegations are the story that shocked in these past weeks is weak notified. Because at least the Chamisa allegations were leaked intelligence document and at least those were denied. What Chivayo did, he announced it publicly, proudly, with his name on it. Controversy erupted after businessmen and ZANU-PF ally Wikno Chivayo announced it would pay $3.6 million donation to members of parliament and senators, amounting to $10,000 each for each of the country's 360 legislators, describing it as an Independence Day gift to support constituency development projects. $10,000 per MP, per senator, every single one. Announced publicly, justified as charity, just weeks before the Cape 3 vote. The Zimbabwe Constitutional Movement condemned the donation, describing it as a calculated attempt to buy the loyalty of lawmakers at a critical moment. This manipulation comes as a critical moment. At a critical moment, as Cape 3 is set to be presented in Parliament, amidst my contentious findings from public consultations, the group said, the constitutional movement, and then it got pulled back. The man was withdrawn, not because anyone suddenly developed a conscience. The man was withdrawn not because it was misunderstood, but because it was understood too clearly. The problem was not that the system is corrupt. The problem is that it briefly showed us how it works. The bribe did not fail. It simply arrived too early. Read that again, Zimbabwe. The bribe did not what? Fail. It simply arrived too early. That is an analyst telling you. The corruption is real. The intention was real. The only mistake was doing it too visibly. So they pulled it back, refined the method, and the influence operation continues. Just more quietly now, right? Tagwirei has also reportedly offered residential stands to MPs. Cars, stands, cash, every MP being approached from every angle. The US Treasury Department has already designated Tagwirei under the Global Magnitsky program, noting that he has provided high-value gifts to senior members of the government of Zimbabwe to gain access to resources and exert significant control over major sectors of Zimbabwe's economy. The Americans documented it, sanctioned it, named it, and it is still happening. Now directed at your parliament, Zimbabwe, at the people you elected to represent you, being bought one envelope at a time. Right? Charamba shuts down dissent. The Sean Mnangagwa defense. Zimbabwe. And while all of this financial capture is happening, the government is simultaneously shutting down anyone who dares question the military promotions we covered last week. Professor Lovemo Maduk, constitutional lawyer, one of the most respected legal minds in Zimbabwe, publicly stated that the promotion of Sean Mnangagwa was null and void, that the president cannot constitutionally promote his own son, that a conflict of interest of this magnitude should have been handled by a vice president. The government's response, the Deputy Chief Secretary George Charamba, came out swinging, asserting that the president's role as commander-in-chief is, and I want you to hear these exact words, absolute and indivisible. Absolute. Ruins already and indivisible. Absolute. Absolute power. Are we a monarch? What are you talking about? Absolute, indivisible. No checks, no questions, no accountability. The president can do whatever he wants with the military because he is the commander-in-chief and that authority is absolute. Zimbabwe, this is not how constitutional democracy works. This is how authoritarian systems describe themselves. Every constitutional democracy in the world has checks on military appointments precisely because unchecked military authority is the foundation of dictatorship itself. You do not get to put your son in charge of the unit that protects you or removes a rival and then declare that authority absolute and beyond question. It is widely believed that a significant faction of ruling party MPs is aligned with Vice President Chiwenga and the military element, both of whom are seen as being against CHABVONDOKA. So, while Charamba defends the president's absolute military authority, the military itself is quietly divided. The generals who oppose CHABVONDOKA are providing what analysts call an invisible whip, a silent assurance to backbench MPs that if they vote against the bill, they will be protected from reprisal. By invoking the spirit of the liberation struggle, retired generals have signaled to every backbencher that the security of the nation is no longer tied to a single individual's 7-year ambition. If my MP in Zimbabwe have been assured by the generals that they will be protected, the traditional party whip loses its teeth. The threat of losing the whip or being recalled from parliament becomes meaningless if the very people who enforce those rules are about to be superseded by a new power dynamic. So on one side, Chivaya with $10,000 cash envelopes and Tagwirei with residential stands. On the other side, retired generals quietly whispering to MPs that they are safe to vote their conscience. This is the war for CHABVONDOKA. And it is being fought in corridors and WhatsApp groups and parking lots, not in parliament chambers. The economy bleeding while the fight is going on in Zimbabwe. While all of this political warfare consumes the state house and the corridors of parliament, the economy is flashing red and ordinary Zimbabweans are paying the price. Global gold prices have dropped following economic signals from Japan. And for Zimbabwe, that is not just a financial headline. Gold is the backbone of Zimbabwe's foreign currency earnings. When gold prices fall, ZIG comes under pressure. Civil service wages, already inadequate, become even harder to honor. The vendors, the nurses, the teachers, the civil servants who have been waiting for meaningful salary adjustments, they wait longer. They suffer more. While the political elite fights over who gets 7 more years. And then the contrast that should make every Zimbabwean angry. Neighboring Zambia just attracted a $3 billion investment from the United States into the Minga copper mine, driven by global demand for copper to power AI data centers and the green energy revolution. $3 billion into one mine in one country, because that country is seen as stable, investable, and governed by rules rather than by one man's ambition. Zimbabwe is sitting on lithium, one of the most valuable minerals on earth right now, sitting on diamonds, platinum, gold. And instead of attracting the kind of investment Zambia is attracting, we are generating headlines about assassination plots, bribed MPs, presidential sons in the presidential guard, and a constitutional bill that even retired generals are petitioning against. A constitutional expert put it simply: term limits are not meant for people who fail. They are meant for people who succeed because they must lead and live. Lead and live. 4 words. 3 words. The entire democratic principle was summarized perfectly. You lead well and then you live. You make way. You allow renewal. You trust the next generation. That is now that is how nations grow. That is how institutions are built. That is how Zimbabwe could attract $3 billion investments instead of watching Zambia do it. So, Muswama Monday, May 18, the date that decides everything. Zimbabwe, we are days away. May 18th, the first reading of CHABVONDOKA in Parliament. ZANU-PF's Patrick Chinamasa says the bill will swiftly sail through Parliament, insisting there is effectively no opposition to block its passage. Swiftly sail. The man is that confident because they have the numbers. They have bought the loyalty. They have moved the military chess pieces. They have allegedly silenced the opposition leader. They have parachuted loyalists into key command positions. They have Chivayo's cash making its rounds in less visible ways now. They have Tagwirei systems and vehicles being quietly distributed. Zimbabwe is now watching something it was never meant to see this clearly. The mechanics of influence, the pricing of loyalty, the routing of money, the internal disagreements over how best to execute power. This is not dysfunction. This is exposure, Zimbabwe. And that exposure, that is where you come in, family. Because the one thing they cannot buy is attention. They cannot bribe every Zimbabwean with a smartphone. They cannot put $10,000 in every diaspora account. They cannot silence every YouTuber, every WhatsApp group, every person who forwards a video and says, watch this, you need to see this. Before Monday, watch what happens at Hiroseka. Watch whether Mnangagwa and Shwenga appear together. Watch the body language. Watch who speaks and who is silent. Because in Zimbabwe right now, silence is never accidental. Silence is posture. And before May 18th, make noise, talk about it, share it. Because the more Zimbabweans who understand what is being done in their name, with their constitution, to their democracy, the harder it becomes to do it quietly. So, the closer the bill you will pay. I want to leave you with this final thought. Every bribe has a bill. Every bought vote has a price. Every $10,000 given to an MP comes from somewhere. And that somewhere is the system that has been extracting value from Zimbabwe's minerals, Zimbabwe's land, Zimbabwe's tenders, Zimbabwe's treasury for years. Zimbabwe. That money does not belong to Shvayo. That money does not belong to Tagwirei. That money belongs to the vendor in Bari, the teacher in Mtare, the farmer in Masvingo, the nurse in Blawayo. They are buying your democracy with your own money. As one analyst said it, toxicity in elections is addressed by changing attitudes, particularly the attitudes of senior ZANU-PF political officials. Not by extending terms, not by abolishing your vote, not by buying MPs and silencing opposition leaders. The question is not whether CHABVONDOKA will pass. The question is, what Zimbabwe are we building? What legacy are we leaving? What do we tell the students who were abducted at public hearings? What do we tell the war veterans who petitioned the parliament and were ignored? What do we tell our children when they ask, where were you when they sold our constitution? May 18th is coming. Eyes open, voices loud, and as always, Zimbabwe is not for sale. This is your boy, Pano Pamzinda Wevan, fearless, free, pro-democracy always. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned, stay subscribed.